Welcome to Wednesday. A couple things to stick out that I want to start. I want to talk about three dudes that are really having exceptional impacts on our program. One of them is Vi Petco. 2 weeks in a row, he's recovered fumbles on kick teams that have stood us in the doorway. And both times we have failed to capitalize. So it's interesting that a guy that just joined our program's had such a dramatic impact at a time of the game when we need him the most, so that's pretty cool for Vi. Second of all, Kramer is playing exceptionally well at corner and at nickel. We just want him to make more tackles, to be more sure on his tackles. And obviously our quarterback, Justin Arias, is coming off a rough game, and he's got to play better. He's got to take care of the ball. He's had a number of key turnovers this year that are not just interceptions. We've fumbled the ball too much, so his ball security has got to improve so that we don't thwart ourselves on our own drive. So three guys that I'm thinking of as I came down the ramp today. Overall, I think we've shown a lot of improvement in our numbers overall from where we were even 2 years ago, last year, and now. After 2 games in the Big Sky Conference. Last year at this time, we'd surrendered 15 touchdowns already. This year, we're obviously in competitive games. And I believe that this last Saturday's effort was the closest loss we've had since I've been here. We've lost some games by 7, and we've lost some games by 77. But we're a lot better in a lot of ways. Question?
Mike, I asked you after the game, I said it was the best the defense had played. You said no, and then I kind of went back on it, and then I looked at the stats again. They had 3 first downs in the second half.
Yep.
And you talked about 250 yards in the first half, but
267.
Right, so if you segment just the second half, can you assess your defense of how much they've
2
improved?
games in a row in just the second half, especially in just the third quarter. We've played as outstanding football as we have played. And I'm excited that we have the potential to do that. I'd like to see third quarter played in the first quarter.
What is happening? Are they just seeing things and then recognizing and changing?
Combination of 2 things, Matt. Number one, we're a little young in our coaching staff, and we are really settling ourselves down at halftime. Not in front of the players, but ourselves, and getting ourselves to go in and speak to them and say the right things that allow us to be able to play better in the second half. And I think that's really instructive and instrumental in what we've been able to accomplish. Second of all, I think defensively we just continue to blow up like a bubble in terms of getting bigger and bigger and bigger about our confidence throughout a game. We're led by a couple of really good seniors in the back end. Obviously Trevor Spence is playing outstanding at linebacker and inside linebacker, and obviously Tanner Davis is coming off his best game as a safety. But more importantly, there's some younger guys that are playing with a lot more confidence, and Cody Sorensen at strong safety continues to be a real impressive part of that, not only in tackles, but in correct assignments and discipline within his position. And hopefully we'll be able to get Tyson Manu out there to be able to play like he's capable of playing as a tackler, but better with his eyes in terms of making good plays.
Coach, you brought up Justin Arias when you first came in. Last week you mentioned Pac-12 hangover. Was that still the case last Saturday, or what's the progress with that?
Well, one thing about it is after Cameron and Luke, the receivers are awfully young, and we see those guys being plagued by clangs, drops. And Justin, I don't know if he gets on himself, but he will isolate away from those guys a little bit. He's got to do a better job of taking care of the ball, especially when he starts to scramble upfield. And then we saw him a couple times last week in the second half with opportunities for big plays in which he continued to keep his passing grip and throw the ball downfield. Now we're trying to pat him on the rear end and say, hey, run the ball if you can, because there are a couple of runs that he evaded last week to try and stay within the play. So some maturity growth for him. He's played 5 games as a starter, and I think we'll see outstanding play from him through the next 7 ball games.
Overall, you're happy with the progress and where he's at?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm happy. We've lost 3 in a row now, so I'm not happy. I cannot be happy. There's nothing to be happy about. But I like where he can go, is a better way of saying it, rather than be satisfied or very positive about where he's at. He can play better. The one thing, all the time, the one thing he is deadly at is on third down. Boy, he is a rapier. He had a couple third down plays last week that extended drives that were eye-popping plays, and he can make those plays all the time. He has a tremendous upside.
And Saturday you mentioned, I guess the overall tone was you guys weren't happy. You should have won that game. What are your thoughts now that you've had a few days of process and looked at film?
Again, it's a loss, and we will not be satisfied until we not only win, but win in the right way. So we're making a lot of mistakes that I can think we can get corrected. It's great to be competitive. It's great to play well in front of our fans. It's awesome to play at home. I cannot say enough about our fans, especially on causing offsides by the opposing team's offense. I mean, we're setting all sorts of records of doing that this year, and we don't have every seat filled. So we're very positive about what's happening to us at home. However, we have got to reach the level of our fans because our fans are into it.
Mike, Xavier Finney has given you a different dimension the last couple of weeks, even from the start of the season to the last few weeks. Is that something he's doing? Is that something the coaches are adjusting to, or what?
Well, I think it's two things, Mark. Number one, he's learned how to play at this level. He's only a second-year player. And then number two, we're making a conscious effort to run the ball better. And that is a relationship to our offensive line, improved play. Xavier is taking advantage of the opportunity. Now he's already rushed for 335 yards. That's almost 100 more, or maybe I think it is 100 more than our season-high individual total over the last two seasons. So the running game has become a bigger part of our offense because it's given us more variability.
What do you know about Northern Colorado?
Northern Colorado struggling a little bit. Went on the road last week against Sacramento State, got involved in an early shootout. Sacramento State pulled way ahead, and they tried to close the gap and couldn't quite get there with Seth Lobato, a quarterback who last year threw 5 touchdown passes against us in a 55-17 Northern Colorado win. These two teams have played against each other, and the outcomes have been ugly. The first one was 50-10 by us, and then 55-17 by them. So there's a little angst going on probably for both coaching staffs as this game approaches.
On paper, if you look at the stats run down for each team, they're very, very similar. But off paper, on the field, what is different? Maybe what favors you, what favors Northern Colorado?
Well, we're improved in our offensive line, and their offensive line is playing pretty well. I think their defensive line is pretty physical. They've got a really good defensive end who plays hard on every single play. We have got to be able to play well at home, and we've got to be able to catch the ball. We've narrowed down our missed tackles, and we've narrowed down our drops. Obviously not enough to be able to sustain drives. And we went 11 quarters with 1 touchdown scored there for a long time, and we finally got some scores there in the fourth quarter last week. So hopefully we'll be able to play hard, play more confident early offensively, get some points on the board.
Mike, there was some things last year at Northern Colorado that were a little dicey and such. As a coach, are you focused on trying to keep the players focused, to just forget about all that stuff last year and just play the game now? Do you think that'll be some type of an issue this week?
Well, I think if we had an issue with every team that thumped us last year, we got about an 8-game run to go through. So, yeah, we're pretty mindful of how things went at the end of the game for us last year, and we'll be okay.
Trying to wrap my mind around 2 years ago to last year. They had a new coach last year.
No, same coach.
The same coach? Okay.
Yeah,
So
he and I both hired the same year.
right. So, but the two games don't match up. It was similar teams, but the results were so different. What was different about here as well as in Greeley?
Well, by the time we played them last year, we were out of the groove. I mean, we were out of the groove. We were off the road and in the ditch, and we were not coming back. 2 years ago when we played them here, we played with no running backs, and we had to throw it continuously. We actually ran 103 plays and scored a bunch of points, yet if we could have run the ball late to be able to protect the lead and not make it such a numerical aberration of the way you need to play, we would have done it. But we could not run the ball. We had no running backs at all. So we were left with only our passing game, and Kevin played outstanding on that day. Last year, we couldn't generate any offense early, and they thumped us. With Lobato getting 5 touchdown passes, we remember that.
So you're saying, last year, once the snowball started rolling, you really couldn't stop it. This year, against Northern Colorado, you've had 2 close games to prove that, hey, this team's coming along. How important is this game to make sure the snowball doesn't keep rolling and get bigger?
Well, the one thing, Jeff, I think that's real important is that we are not going to rise this program from there to here without being in the middle. We're going to play a lot of dramatic games here for a long, long time, and some of those are going to go our way and some are not. To establish our rise of our program, we're going to play a bunch of close games, and they're going to be fourth quarter nail biters. But that hinges on our ability of our defense to keep it close while our offense finds its footing. And we're finding some of that. We found that last week. We found out how it's going to feel as we rise our program, not just against Northern Colorado or Davis or North Dakota, but against upcoming games, against other teams that I think we're pretty competitive with.
Mike, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, whatever term you want to use, how is your team right now? Because they played 2 difficult games the last 2 weeks, games that were there for the taking. They weren't able to get them. Mentally, how are they so far this week?
I like our verbiage. I like the way we talk to each other. I like the way we talk in the locker room. I like the way we are in meetings, and I like the way we are, in the weight room. We feel like we're competitive. We feel like we can win, and we're disappointed that when we don't win. We're happy to be able to work hard during practice to be able to get out there and get going. This team can see what we see now as a coaching staff.
Is that different from the last couple of years?
Oh yeah. Oh, my gosh.
How different? Can you explain the differences and how different the mentality is?
This is an interesting story. I don't know if this is a format for it, but the 2011 team was a defiant football team. They didn't like anybody. They didn't like me. They didn't like our staff. They didn't like losing. They didn't like winning. They didn't like anything. They just didn't like being Bengals. Last year's team enjoyed each other, and they weren't defiant, but we couldn't function. I mean, we were so young and had lost so much of our swagger that there's no way we were even competitive from play 1 to play 150. This team is very compliant. Very much understands where the coaching staff wants to go and reacts very positively to the stress we put on in practice and in games, and I like that. I like that a lot. This is a special group of guys that are going to be able to get done. The elevation that this program needs is going to come from this group.
Is that indicative of where you need to be on day 900 something?
Well, the only thing about that theory is that it's probably day 1500 because of APR. In a normal situation in years past, when I've resurrected programs, we've done it in 1,000 days, but we've been able to flush early. With APR, we couldn't flush any at all, so we had to swallow guys that weren't going to be part of our program. They didn't see it the way we saw it, and we had to eat those guys. And until those guys got out of our program, we really couldn't begin our cathartic move forward. And we're really in the process of that now. I can really feel the progress going forward, and I think you see it in all facets of our game. But maybe the most indicative group is our offensive line, which is comprised of who? Sophomore, freshman, sophomore, junior, who's never been redshirted. So, again, that group probably is a microcosm.
Microcosm.
There you go, microcosm. There's me. I know how to speak, but a microcosm of our entire team. The growth of our offensive front is going to mirror the growth of our team.
Mike, after the game, the last 2 times I've sent things out, positive stuff in the game. There's a lot of positive things for the Bengals. Each of the last 2 weeks, I've gotten stuff from fans going, yeah, but they lose. Okay? So I'm always the eternal optimist. It's better to do a job that way.
That's exactly right.
Sports, man. Well, answer those questions for me, because I always write back, yeah, but they're so close. They're taking the next step. And the response has always been, yeah, but they're not taking that next step. What would you say to a fan who goes, they're close, but come on, you got to take the next step?
It's an inch-by-inch process. I mean, I'd love to see it go faster, way, way, way faster. In the NFL, you can overhaul your entire roster. In college football, you used to be able to overhaul your entire roster, and no greater architect of that was Dave Cragthorpe. Go back and check it out. In 80, they signed 26 junior college guys, and in 81, they signed another 22. That's 48 juniors and seniors that you add to your program in 2 years. And those days are long gone. And the fact that you could take a program that is so beat down as Idaho State University football is, and I'm not just talking about from the previous coaching staffs, but you look at the winning percentage all time of Idaho State University in Big Sky Conference play for 50 seasons, and you'll find what we're really trying to do. It'll be an inch-by-inch process. And I think it's awesome that any fans would be critical of where we're at and how we're going, because that means they care, and as we get there, we'll show them that we have an idea of what we're doing.
And do you agree with me when I say to them, it's inch by inch, but it's going this way?
No question. No question. When you put this many freshmen and sophomores together, and I don't know if you guys are old enough to know what mercurochrome is. It was used to paint thumbsuckers' fingers or thumbs so they wouldn't suck their thumb. Oh, well, we use a lot more mercurochrome than analgesic balm to cure our guys, get our guys on the field, because we got a lot of young guys who sometimes, when they're playing so much, when they make a mistake, we're just going to pat them on the rear end and get them out there. And they've got to quit sucking their thumbs. So that's part of the process.
Can you spell those words for us?
Mercurochrome.
I'm just kidding. How about an availability report, Coach?
Availability is probably the most available we've been. Only Nick Beckman, who was lost for the season, will not be on in uniform this weekend. PJ Grimal continues to battle an unavailability that really, to me, is a very serious thing. You know, we start. I'm not specifically talking about him, but when we start talking about head and neck injuries, I don't know if any of you guys got a chance to see the PBS documentary last night on concussions. Really kind of a cornerstone of where we're all thinking about concussions now, and to have PBS and Frontline do a show on that was really good for us. Makes us all think about our sport and the love we have of our sport. But I also heard something today about our sport that I thought was really cool. If you went back 20 years and looked at the highlight films that we used 20 years ago and looked at the highlight films we use today, you wouldn't find the same type of football being played. And I think that's a healthy thing for all the coaches, for all the players, at every level across the board. And we want to try to be as safe as we can. And PJ Grimal is caught in that, right in that vortex of what we're talking about head and neck injuries, and we will be extremely careful with him.
Coach, I want to go back. Trying to get a question. A couple months ago, whether these allegations are true or not, but the allegations against Oklahoma State, and part of the thing was they rose to meteoric heights in such a short amount of time. Can you talk about having to do it inch by inch and making sure, you said flush earlier, can you take me through that process again?
Well, I just think when you look at a program, you look at a roster, and then you look at what those guys, what the numbers say about that roster. It begins with height, weight, size, and speed. And you turn it into weight room, it turns into bench press, squat, 40-yard dash, vertical jump, standing broad jump. And then you look at their academic record, how smart are they? And then you look at their competitive record, where did they come from? Those 4 lines of evaluation will give you some sort of indice of whether your program is going where it needs to go. And we failed in almost every single player had some sort of failure in those 4 indices when we got here. Yet, because of APR, we had to keep those guys on it and push those guys, and thank gosh they graduated, which is great for them. Yet, they did not have any one of all 4 of the elements that every player has to have at every single position for you to be successful. And I'm not talking about Idaho State standards, I'm talking about standards that Montana State uses, or Montana uses, or Cal Poly uses. And those are the 3 Big Sky champions. We were void, not devoid, but void of enough players to be competitive no matter what you ran on offense or defense. And we paid the price for it in an inordinate sense. And I think if we go back and looked at those 4 indices for all the levels of football players in 50 years at Idaho State compared to other programs in this conference, we will find a continual lack of the type of quality players, enough players, to be able to be competitive. And let's put the onus on coaching. So now what we've had to do here is we've taken those indices and made those important to us in our recruiting. However, recruiting is slow.
Can you talk to me about doing it the right way, though? And, now we're at this point where you've had these 2 close games. You've done it the right way, 2 close games. Now you've got a winnable game here at home. Talk to me about doing it the right way and putting it all together.
In the perspective of this game?
In putting it all together. So 2 years, you've done it the right way. Now you've got a chance to prove you've done it the right way, and it's going to start paying off.
I would say we are doing it the right way.
Yeah.
It's too early yet. We're too young. Take a look at our roster. Take a look at how many sophomores and freshmen we're playing in the frontline units, not just in backup units. It's a redshirt junior league. Montana State, Eastern Washington, those guys are playing redshirt juniors in their key positions. And redshirt juniors, you have to have enough redshirt juniors and seniors to be competitive. We start 2 juniors, 2 seniors on offense. One is a former walk-on, and the other one was a junior college guy that we recruited. There's no class there. There's no senior class there. In fact, in that junior class, there is not a junior playing for us that was here when we got here. So you understand the void, or the absence of quality players in the middle grades when we got here. Now those are our upper grades, and we still don't have those guys. So it'll take us a while. It'll probably take us 2 years yet, Jeff, to get to the quality of player in the upper levels of our class that will match us up with Montana State, Eastern Washington, Cal Poly.